Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And for the rest of this week, it is Shark Week. So today I'm doing the 2012 film Bait. Here is your trivia question for today. When Jessup attempts to climb through the vents, he discovers sharks aren't the only animals that have made it into the store. What else does he confront? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So in this film, we meet a lovely couple named Josh and Tina who are just about to get married. Now, Josh works as a lifeguard, and his best friend Rory is also a lifeguard, but he also happens to be Tina's brother. Now, Josh is a bit too hungover due to the bachelor party from last night, so he asks if Rory would mind taking on his job this morning and checking the buoys. He goes to do so, but unfortunately, while out there, he is attacked and devoured by a great white shark. So we then jump ahead by 1 year in the story, where apparently Josh and Tina broke up right after what happened to Rory. Josh stayed in town and stopped being a lifeguard and instead just became a clerk at a grocery store. Tina, on the other hand, ended up moving away to Singapore. Now, on what seems like a perfectly average day at the store, we meet some of our characters, some of the workers, some of the customers, and apparently some of the robbers. Now, unfortunately for Josh, also in the store that day is Tina and her new boyfriend, Steven. Now, once the store robbery starts, this seems like this would be the worst part of everyone's day. But in fact, it's not, as a giant tidal wave crashes into Australia, flooding Queensland and completely flooding the store and its parking garage. And of course, it only gets worse from there, as soon after the flooding has stopped, everyone inside realizes sharks have made it into the building as well. So can all of these random people who have been thrown together figure out a way out of the building and past the sharks? This movie was directed by Kimball Rendell. The original director was supposed to be co-writer and executive producer Russell Mulcahy, but due to the fact that he was pretty involved with the Teen Wolf TV series, it made it impossible. Now, depending on where you first saw this film, you may also know this as Bait 3D. This movie was actually the first ever Singapore and Australia feature film co-production. Some of the faces in this film might be recognizable, but more than likely, Julian McMahon as Doyle is probably the most recognizable. You might also recognize Kariba Haina and Phoebe Tonkin as they starred together in the Australian show H2O Just Add Water, where they were mermaids. Now, there definitely are moments in the film where they use CGI sharks, but there were also 3 animatronic sharks used throughout the production. There was also 3 Pomeranians that were used to play bully. One was for swimming, one was for barking, and one was for running. The movie was filmed and takes place in Queensland, Australia. The real-life location in Coolangatta, Queensland, Australia, where that store supposedly would be at, is an Aldi. However, the real one is ground level with no lower level like in the film. So the body count for this film, at least for the primary cast, is 7. They also do mention that there's 296 people that were killed by the tsunami. Now there's also one additional kill if you want to include the seagull right at the end. Currently projected to come out this year or next year, there is a pseudo-sequel that should be taking place at least in the same world called Deep Water, about a plane en route from China to Australia that crashes in the Pacific Ocean. Aaron Eckhart is apparently going to be in it, and this is one of the stills from that film. Also, Ben Kingsley is supposed to be in it as well. So when it comes to the film Bait, I really like this one. It's definitely in my top 10 favorite shark films of all time, at least so far. I really like the story and the plot for this film. I do, however, feel that some of the acting in the movie is a little weak. But at the same time, I really do like the practical effects when they're used, and the CGI, even though it can look pretty fake in the film, isn't too distracting in my opinion. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. And if you enjoyed this movie, other films I recommend checking out are Crawl, The Shallows, Malibu Shark Attack, and The Mist. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. When Jessup attempts to climb through the vents, he discovers sharks aren't the only animals that have made it into the store. What else does he confront? So as Jessup attempts to climb into the vent, he is met with a sea of crabs coming his direction that end up unfortunately causing his demise. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.